arcade shooting games, bullet hell games, or shmups if you prefer, are these days perhaps as cult following as you can get in video games. But back in the days of arcades, these games ruled the neon rooms and coin-up machines, and for many, playing these games over and over again to learn all the patterns was the most enjoyment you could get from an arcade, and securing those high scores kept the competition high. One of the most iconic in the genre is Gradius. Its fighter jet, spaceship and level up system is a staple of the franchise. But the spaceship Vic Viper is not just the hotshot space fighter of the Gradius series, it is also the protagonist spaceship of two spin-off franchises, Life Force and Salamander. Salamander even got a sequel many years later which greatly improved graphics and sound, expanding on the alien themes its predecessor installed. Gradius went on to having many more sequels in its style, but Salamander is different, just enough to still be worth a look. There are two main differences Salamander has to its Gradius big brother. In Gradius you can collect power-ups and choose when to cash them in to collect any power-up you like, in any order you like. In Salamander, this power-up method is switched to a more traditional power-up system where you get what you are given, which can make it more difficult to recover from a death, but also gives you less to think about in a gunfight. The other is the setting, separating itself from many bullet hell and shoot 'em up games, taking you to locations across the surface of the sun, asteroid fields, and beautifully disgusting worlds that often look like the inside of the belly of an alien beast. As you focus on dodging the wave of shots and pick your time to shoot back, a thumping soundtrack pushes you forward that you will be humming long after you switch off the game. Bosses are large and varied, and the game switches between a side-on perspective to an overhead view from level to level to test your ability to adapt and mix up the gameplay. All of this adds to an addictive experience that I would be happy to recommend as anyone's first experience into the genre. The game's locations, especially in Salamander 2, are gorgeous and really gives a nice change to many of the genre's spaceship themes and rushing stars of empty space. As you steadily build up your firepower, few enemies will stand a chance against you as you dodge attacks and level hazards, learning patterns and enemy behaviours and gawking at the many ranging background settings. Until you don't. See, the bullet hell shoot 'em up genre is known for its difficulty, but Salamander is perhaps one of the most punishing, especially Salamander 1. One mistake, one crash into a wall or stray shot will instantly destroy you and make all of your power-ups disappear. This even includes speed boosts, with many of the game's bosses and tougher sections being almost impossible to beat at the very slow default speed. So unless you are lucky enough to quickly get a speed boost on respawning, it isn't rare to lose lives in quick succession due to being so weak in your default state. This can be far too punishing for many, and the only way to truly avoid this is to replay the same sections over and over again until you're familiar enough to avoid taking damage, which can take hundreds of hours. Well, unless you use the Konami code to max out your power-ups when you pause the game, right? Nope, they thought of that too. The game's difficulty adjusts depending on how strong your ship is, with bosses especially having more firepower and more difficult patterns to avoid if you reach them with all guns maxed. Where this is true of Gradius as well, because of its power-up system, you have more of a chance to decide what power-up you get next, where in Salamander you are slave to what the enemy drops, making Salamander arguably much harder by default. Salamander 2 is nowhere near as difficult, but it is worth mentioning that this steep learning curve before playing the series, it does not go easy on you. But what appears at first as an impossible struggle gives you a light at the end of the tunnel feeling, as Salamander only has 6 stages. Therefore, if you are able to learn where to fly your ship to navigate the grotesque alien growths and avoid enemy fire, you could save the galaxy in less than an hour. But I would gladly shake your hand if you get that good in under 50 hours. So really, there's a lot of value for money here. Regardless, this game gives you a healthy dose of what the genre has to offer. The thrill of firepower, amazing music, near misses and crushing difficulty, with the reward of high scores and progression the more time you decide to learn its patterns and enemy placement. Salamander and Life Force have the difficulty turned to 11, even on easy, with Salamander 2 being more accessible to people these days. Many who play Salamander may never see its final boss or topple its default settings, for overplaying on super easy mode, and for people trying to learn the game, bosses that get harder the better you are playing is an unfair way to hold you back. But little in the gaming world is more satisfying than getting a little closer to the end each time and comparing high scores with friends and rivals, especially when it looks and sounds this good. And if it wasn't hard, with 6 levels the game would be over too quickly with little reason to return. And it is this one more time mentality that keeps the game memorable and the challenge alive. Kizra says, the unique stage design looks and sounds great. Gameplay looks solid for people who are into scrolling shooters. I wouldn't mind trying this one. Vargas says, this took Gradius and made some really solid gameplay changes. Whereas Fanata says, I'm not a fan of sticky slimy flesh environments and there are plenty of shooters that would fit my bill better, but Salamander has a top quality audio and OST. So adding up all the hits and the misses, 81% of the OLL community suggest that you try out Salamander and Life Force. Thank you for all of those that took part in this episode of Critical Hit. If you'd like to be a part of the next episode, then please consider joining the OLL community on Discord, Twitch, Facebook and YouTube, and we could be reading out your thoughts and opinions on the games that we cover in the near future. This was Bill on behalf of OLL Games. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. Laters!